Are you tired of winning yet?
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning.
So, let's start today's video looking at the stock market. What can you see? A massive dump on the daily candle, as we can see, after getting a little bit of positive momentum before the tariffs. Now, this week is set to close out pretty ugly. I mean, it's only Thursday, so maybe tomorrow on the Friday we can reverse things, but this is starting to look very, very bad. Obviously, this is a crypto channel, but I'm talking about stocks because it impacts crypto the same. Now, if I zoom out here, we're going to talk about the same scenario, and that is a big correction for the stock market if we keep on getting rejected at this blue line, which is the 200-day moving average. As we can see here, in the past, we saw a correction in January 2022 going all the way down into October 2022, which ended up being a 27% drop. And along the way, if I zoom in here, what we can see is that we kept on getting rejected at the 200-day moving average and also at the bull market support band. But now we're starting to lose this trend, and it's not looking good, especially with these wicks. So the more that we keep wicking to the upside and getting sold off immediately, the more and more likely that the stock market correction will persist. And let me just show you what a 20% correction would look like. It would bring us all the way down below 5,000 for the S&P 500. Now, this would be drastic for crypto, and we'll get into the crypto chart here. Right now, what we're looking at is we're trying to hold $81,000 as support. To be fair, and I share this in my free Telegram community down below if you'd like to join, but Bitcoin seems to be holding up relatively well, all things considered, because also we can see that the Nasdaq's decline officially exceeded 1,000 points on the day, which is now 2% away from entering bear market territory. Now that is scary. It was the same thing for the Russell, and obviously this impacts crypto. All things considered, at the very moment, Bitcoin is still holding up relatively well. Now, if we are to lose this 81K level, which at the time of recording this video, I do think is possible, we would be revisiting into the 70Ks once again. And of course, that would destroy altcoins. You don't need me to tell you that. The only saving grace here would be that if all of a sudden Trump stops all of these tariffs, cancels them, gets into agreements with all of the countries involved, which seems extremely unlikely in a short period of time. And we also had Trump's Secretary of Commerce coming out, Lutnick, saying there's no chance that Trump will back off the tariffs, which is not positive for markets. Everyone is currently freaking out. But it's funny because the volatility isn't even that severe. So we have yet to see proper capitulation. Proper capitulation for Bitcoin would likely resort much lower with a huge wick to the downside getting bought up. But we've been talking about this scenario for months on the channel now. I think that there's a high likelihood that we come back and retest the previous year's high at that range around $73,000, and I still firmly believe that this is the case. But I am seeing a lot of bearishness on the timeline. There's a lot of fear in the market as well, and usually when people are fearful, that's when things can turn around, assuming that the markets are still healthy. But right now we're assuming that the markets are not healthy, and speaking of which, ETH Bitcoin, we have to talk about this. We are now about to break 0.02. This is shocking to me because, as I mentioned a few months ago, I didn't think that the bottom was in, but I did say that I believed Ethereum could outperform Bitcoin for the rest of this cycle. The question is the cycle over? And my answer to that would be no, until we potentially lose key levels. I will obviously make sure to keep you updated on the YouTube channel and in my Telegram community, but if we lose this level down here, 73K, and then we start to make our way below $70,000, that is when I would consider the cycle over. But the one thing to consider there is that even if we were to go as low as there with all of the recent uncertainties in the market, it doesn't necessarily mean that we couldn't get another pop back to the upside, marking a huge lower high for Bitcoin. So that would mean that we wouldn't necessarily go all the way up to 109K, but we have seen historically in cycles huge pops when we're in the downtrend to liquidate all of the shorts beforehand. Something else that I want to show you in this video is that the prediction markets now see 3 interest rate cuts in 2025 for a total of 75 basis points. As recession odds rise, markets think that the Fed will be forced to cut rates as soon as next month. And if you remember correctly, this is exactly what Trump actually wanted. And he said there will be pain in the short term for long-term gains. Maybe this is exactly what's happening. But I'm not that concerned because, as you know, the lower we go, the more Bitcoin I accumulate. And I shared this on the channel. All of the profits that I make from my trades typically go into Bitcoin and stable coins. And right now I'm in a couple of open trades as the market goes down. You can see that this one is in $10,000 of unrealized profits. I already cashed out just under $3,000, and then I have another one open which is currently $900 in profit. This just goes to show that you can literally make money whether the market goes up or down, and that's why if you want to trade the market, you should sign up with the first link in my description down below. It brings you directly to weeks where you can earn a 50% deposit bonus. That means that if you deposit $2,000 into your account, you get $1,000 back for trading purposes. They also have some awesome prizes depending on the amount of volume that you generate when you trade. I also have another one for those of you that don't want to use weeks. This is a very solid exchange. It's called BitFi. All you need is an email and a password to sign up. You can deposit and trade freely, and they list tokens very quickly. And you get a 15% bonus cashback for signing up with my link. So let me just give you a summary of Trump's Liberation Day as the Kobasi letter put it here. Basically, Liberation Day equals Liquidation Day. But the average US tariff rate has jumped to a whopping 29%. This doesn't even coincide with what it was in the 1930s Great Depression. Tariffs weren't even that high at that point, as we can see on this chart over here. And if we scroll down, this is a summary of what happened. If it wasn't already clear to you, it should be clear now. Markets are bracing for a recession. Oil prices are nearly down 7%. And if these tariffs are implemented for the long term, we could see oil prices fall as low as 40%, which would be detrimental. If the average tariff remains around 29%, inflation is also expected to rise to 5 to 5.5%. And this brings the question of stagflation, because with stagflation, you're essentially battling 3 things: slow growth, high unemployment rate, which we're seeing is starting to tick up a little bit, and inflation, which makes a recipe for disaster. Now, the only reason I'm bringing up the concept of stagflation is because Goldman Sachs asset management execs said that there's a potential of stagflation, and it's real after the US tariff announcements. This also explains the strange price action during the announcement yesterday, as we discussed in the video that I published yesterday. Basically, the markets rallied because we thought that it would only be 10% base tariffs, but then this changed very quickly when we found out that the tariffs would be half of the tariffs imposed by other countries on the US. That made for a much more drastic move in the market. And in terms of stock performance in crypto, I don't need to go through this. You know that we just absolutely tanked. Now, the trade policy uncertainty index is also surging to a new record high. We are now seeing uncertainty levels that are 3 times as high as the Trump trade war 1.0 high. Uncertainty is the market's biggest enemy, as we've been discussing on the channel, particularly in a time where we have rebounding inflation. And as a result, many parts of the market and economy are slowing down. M&A transaction value has collapsed in the wake of economic uncertainty. Private equity funds are deploying less capital and taking on less debt. The consensus is that it's too risky to actually do anything. And another huge sign here is that the 10-year yield is falling off of a cliff. It's its lowest level since September 29th. Even as inflation is about to ramp up to 5% plus, interest rates are falling. This is the number one sign that markets are currently pricing in a recession this year. So I'm not telling you all this to scare you, but we have to understand that all of this drastically impacts crypto, whether we want to believe it or not. And so if we do get those confirmations, crypto can move much lower. But in the meantime, I will still be trading this market, and I will make sure to always keep you updated. For now though, my core piece of advice would be to not overtrade in these markets, because One second you think that you're in a killer short, and the next second the price can just pump, wipe you out, and then move on lower. Manage your risk accordingly, and if you want any kind of guidance in terms of how you should be navigating the market and how you should be trading, I would recommend that you sign up to our Pro Discord community, which is also in the links down below. Now, the last thing I'll end the video with: are you tired of winning? All jokes aside, as I said, you can still make a lot of money in this market if you're actively trading it, which is why I would recommend that you do so, and of course, manage your risk accordingly. Not financial advice, but as always, if you'd like to trade with me, you can sign up with the first 2 links in my description down below. This market is very volatile, so there's lots of opportunities to make some profits. And that sums up today's quick market update. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.